Welcome back to another episode of Capital POV. On today's episode, we are extremely excited to welcome Frank Nieuwkoop, who is one of the owners, co-owner with his wife, Diane, of Valecraft Homes. Now, why I'm really excited about this is because Frank was actually in real estate sales when he got started. And that's where I want to kind of pick up the conversation. Frank, I know you started in the early 80s. I think it was 1984.
Yep.
You were a realtor in the GTA area. What was it like back then getting into the real estate industry?
It was tough. It was tough. Being young and in real estate when you're 21 years old in the city of Toronto was a tough thing to do. So you really had to, we call it farming the neighborhood. And I moved in a neighborhood in Roncesvalles near High Park in Toronto, and it was difficult because you're young and you're trying to farm a territory, so you're knocking on doors, you're making phone calls, and eventually it started to work. People started to call me back. I started to build a good rapport. I may have been 21, I may have looked young, but I think I talked like I was probably 30.
Right.
So I think that helped me, and I think it helped that maturity when I was there, and I learned a lot by living in Toronto, because Toronto's a very fast-paced city.
Yeah.
Probably a great city to sell real estate or start a business. Not sure I would want to raise a family there, but it was exciting times, because when I started making money, and again, you're on commission, there's no salary in sales, right? And you've got to pay your rent, and you've got to, I didn't even own a house at that point, because that was one of the questions I used to get. Do you even own a house? And I had to say, well, no, but I'm going to buy one eventually.
Yeah.
Right. So those were really, those were exciting times for me, because I know that was the biggest investment everybody makes an investment in their life is a house. Right. So probably after about year 3, year 4, I got really comfortable. I had a really good base of clientele, and it grew, and they really didn't care at that point. I found Toronto was very open to, they didn't care how old you were. They cared more about your knowledge and what can you do for me, and how can you, and listening to their needs and say, this is what I'm looking for. Because a lot of times realtors they'll talk about what they want, or they'll talk about their experiences, but that's not what people want. They want you to listen to them, and they want you to learn and get them what they want, what they ask for. So that was something that I learned very young, and I think because I listened well. And that was probably contributing to my success down there, was the fact that I was listening and learning. And then I stayed in Toronto for 4 years until I met my wife, and I ended up moving to Ottawa. Now, that was a different situation. Yeah. A realtor coming from Toronto to Ottawa was a game changer for me. It was very difficult. It was harder to start in Ottawa all over again.
Oh, wow.
Than it was when I was 21 living in Toronto.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Why would you say that was?
Well, I think the main reason was because there was a real level of trust that you really had to build here. It was almost like I had to work triple hard here, because people, when they don't know you, Toronto was more open because it was very multicultural there. Not that Ottawa's not multicultural, but it was just more, if they didn't know you, it was really difficult to break down those barriers.
Right.
So I had a real tough time when I first got here. And again, eventually I did, and I ended up, to be honest, I played hockey. So hockey was one of the things that opened up doors for me.
Right.
So I came in, I joined a couple of leagues. I think I played 3 leagues at one point. I met so many people.
Yeah.
And through that, I started to get more listings, as you know, being a realtor.
Yeah.
Listings, money in the bank. If you don't have any listings, you're not going to survive.
Correct.
Right? So listings were money in the bank. And then there came a point, I think at one point, where if you had too many listings, it cost you money, because if things weren't selling,
right.
you're like, oh, I don't want any more listings, right?
Yeah.
So real estate was really a resale agent, and you can see it. Like now, I own a development company with Diane, my partner. But those things happened because of my real estate, my sales, starting in sales, right? And sales is so important. Like for us in our business, without sales, we don't survive.
Correct. And I wanted to talk about that a little bit more, because at 21 years old, when did you start to develop sales techniques? Did you come into it with sales techniques, or did you sort of learn as you went along that you needed to really understand your clientele? Like how did you kind of make that connection?
Well, sales, you learn all the time, and I'm still learning today. I mean,
right.
If I can't sit here and tell you that I know everything, because I don't.
Right.
But sales is probably the most important thing. So sales techniques, I mean, I learned that, back to what I said to you earlier, listening. Listen to your customers. They're telling you what they want. And so I think if you learn to listen and use, I mean, technically, you've got to learn how to close.
Yeah.
I mean, closing is really important. There's a lot of salespeople out there today. If you don't know how to close, and I'll elaborate more on that, but closing is asking questions and then understanding what their needs are. So repeating it. So, so you're looking for this. I really want a large kitchen. I really want a workshop in the garage, because you've got two people a lot of times that want different things. So you've got to listen to both of them,
right?
And you've got to put that together. So sales is not something for everybody. Some people think sales is easy. They go, well, sales is, it's not easy.
Yeah.
Sales is a tough thing. Sales is probably, in school when you were a kid, you didn't see kids put their hand up and go, I want to be a salesperson. No, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a firefighter. Right. I want to be a lawyer. So sales is something, good salespeople that have been in this business for a long time, and I don't mean just real estate, in any sales, they're in it because they enjoy it, they love it because they love people.
Yes.
So I think you have to love what you do, and selling something like a home is huge, right? It's the biggest investment you ever make. So those techniques that you learn by listening. Yeah. And so you can take courses on sales. I mean, yes, we took courses and we had to take courses, and I took a lot of different courses in my life. Probably my best lesson in sales was people, was learning from people. Because I think if you listen to people and you learn from those people, it makes you a better salesperson down the road. So you can take all the sales courses you want, but it doesn't necessarily make you a good salesperson. Yes. Right? And it won't make you better. Maybe you'll learn a few things. You'll learn maybe a few tips and things, how to do things better. I mean, being organized is important as a salesperson, because if you're not organized and you consistently making calls. I did some calls last week with my sales guy. I have a new sales guy that's out in Iroquois, Ontario, at our Merkley Oak site. And I get excited. Yeah. I get so excited. I get on the phone. They don't know who I am when I'm calling. Now, I did have one person that did know who I was, and she was so excited, like, wow, you're calling me. And I'm thinking, yeah, I'm calling you. This is important. You're going to buy a home. Yeah. So you came in to see us, and I want to know what you thought of our homes. So I want feedback. So that feedback's really important, because we need to know what they liked and what they didn't like about us. So selling those techniques that we learn, it's something that you're only going to learn when you're in the business. Right. You're going to learn it when you're there and you're listening to people. Yeah. And another thing you said was farming an area. Yeah. I often hear people sort of saying, pick a niche or pick an area. How important was that for you to sort of say, okay, I'm going to pick this area. I'm going to door knock this area. I really want to work this community specifically early on. Right. Or do you think that was important, or do you think that you can go more broad? No, I think when I first started out, that was probably the best learning lesson I had. It was my broker at that time said to me, I didn't even know it. I mean, I come from a farm, so I know what farming is, but farming an area. Yeah. So I'm thinking, okay, farming, what am I farming? So farming means you're going to work a certain area. So I farmed an area of about 1,000 homes. Okay. So it was about 1,000 homes that I focused on in Ronsonsville. And it was actually very Polish-Ukrainian. So me being blonde and so on. So I would knock on doors and people would think I'm Polish-Ukrainian, start speaking Polish-Ukrainian to me. And I'm like, I don't know what you're saying. I'm Dutch. I speak Dutch. Yeah. But they were so great because they were very open and they were so for me, it was a good lesson on working that area. And as I evolved through time, yes, my area expanded, but I never gave up on that area, because when people were thinking about selling a home, whether I put a flyer in their mailbox, whether I knocked on their door, whatever I did, those people thought, oh, hey, Frank, yeah, remember this guy knocked on my door? So you want people to think about you. No different than us now in new home sales. I mean, that's evolved. Marketing's evolved, right? Absolutely. So we're always changing all the time, just as you know in sales. Everybody now, we're on Instagram, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook, there's so many things that we do. And so we're all trying to outdo each other, and we all want that niche in the market, but not being too invasive. Right. Because that's what I find now. I find a lot of the marketing is very invasive. Yeah. So how do you do that to get people in to come to say, because we can, for our salespeople, it's important that we get people to the door so that they can sell. But I always say we've got a couple of opportunities. The first opportunity is when they walk in the door. Right. The second opportunity is when they walk out the door, that we have a callback number that we can call them. If we've let them walk in and they didn't sign any piece of paper, they didn't come in, how are you going to follow up? Yeah. They're gone. Yes. We don't have another opportunity to get them. So those things are important. But I find today in new home sales, if you walk into most sales offices, you'll see if you walk in, they don't even ask you to sign in. Right. So that's where it's changed, and that's where a good salesperson, good selling techniques, will teach you that you need to follow up.
Yeah.
You need to understand what people's needs are. And I used to do a little trick. So I could tell you this story. So one time I had this lady came in and she was in a hurry. She had her kids with her and she had to use the washroom. I said, yeah, go ahead, use the washroom. She runs out, she leaves. But in the meantime, I wrote down some notes. It was little Johnny's birthday. She was on her way to a birthday party. I wrote down little Johnny's birthday. And I just asked her for fun. I said, could you just fill this out? And so she'd fill out the card, the sign-in card. And so anyways, I waited, and about a month later, I called her. I said, hey, how you doing? It's Frank calling. And how's little Johnny doing? How did you enjoy the birthday party? I didn't remember that. I wrote on the back of the card. So I remember. So she was so
moved by that. Yeah,
she
absolutely.
couldn't believe that I would remember that. Well, I didn't remember it, but I wrote it down. But those were little things. And guess what? She came back. She bought a house from us. She had no intention of buying a house. Not at all.
Wow.
But she came back and bought a house from us because she thought, you know what, this guy really cares. And I did. But I mean, those are just things, little sales techniques that you can do that are going to teach you to, that because you're not going to remember everything. Because I don't care how smart you are, you're not going to remember
Absolutely,
everything. I mean, I don't remember everything these days. I have to write things down. But those are the little things that people really appreciate because there was a bond there because now I remembered little Johnny's birthday.
Yeah, right? Yeah. And it's clearly because you come from a sales background, that's a big part of it, right? Is you understand that the customer comes first.
100%. And for me, it's really important that we treat our customers, everyone's the same. Whether you buy a huge single family home from us, you buy a townhome from us, it doesn't matter. We treat everybody the same. And yeah, it's important. Customer service is important. You can see here today, if you look at our finishes in this home, how we finish, that's important to us. The problem in today's market that we're in, a lot of builders now are cutting back on a lot of the finishes. Now, not everybody sees that, but you'll see when you walk into a Valcraft home, it feels warm, it feels invigorating, it feels like I want to live here.
Yeah.
And the problem is that because of financial reasons now today, builders have had to start to knock down the quality. They don't have a choice because they're trying to sell and to get people back in the market because things are so expensive, right?
Yeah.
So those are things that we've just not done. We haven't gone back on it. And our claim to fame, and you're right, was 37 years before COVID, we had never missed a closing date.
Yes.
So we're back on track. We've never missed a closing date since after COVID because that's important to us. Those things are really maybe not important to some people, but for us, it's really important that when we give you a closing date, because you sell your home, you put your stuff in storage,
it's a stressful situation.
Stressful.
Yes.
So you've got to find some interim living, and if we call you and say, oh no, you're sorry, we're going to be late, by 2 weeks, a month, or whatever, that really disrupts your life. So we don't want to disrupt anyone's life. We want to make sure it's an easy, simple process, and that's why we're very proud of the fact that we can say that we had never missed a closing date prior to COVID. And since COVID, we've not missed a closing date. We give you a date, that's your date.
One thing I wanted to ask you about, and I think you're going to have a very interesting perspective on this, is, good markets, bad markets. There's oftentimes, even for myself, there's moments where I'm like, man, can I continue to do this in such a tough market? And I've trained myself to be like, you know what? No, you have to find ways to continue. And a lot of people that I know have sort of actually went the other way and gravitated towards like, okay, well, I'll just go find myself a different job or I'll do something else.
Right.
And I think you touched on one part of it earlier where not everyone's made out to be in sales. Sales is a very hard industry to be in, whatever industry it is. Just the sales is very difficult. Like that part is not easy.
No.
But in a role like that. But what is it that kind of the mindset that you think is important for people, not just sales, but even in business when things get hard? What do you think people need to sort of focus on and be intentional in?
Well, I think you have to work harder. So getting into a routine and sticking to that routine, that's the hardest thing.
Yeah.
It's no different than if you go to the gym and you work out, we're very habitual people.
Yes.
But it's also very easy to break that habit. So we need to get, if you are making, let's say you're making 10 calls a day as a sales rep and it's not working. Well, now maybe you better make 20 calls a day. Because sales is a numbers game.
Yes.
And you just need to keep working in that area, farming, and I say farming because you can farm, there's a big territory here. We're Ottawa, Greater Ottawa. So never give up. Always persevere, push. You will get sales, for us in our business, sales is critical. We don't have sales, people can't work.
Yeah.
We employ a lot of people. You think about not just the people that directly work for Valecraft Homes, but all the trade contractors that work for Valecraft Homes. We probably, you're over 250 people.
Right.
So we're affecting a lot of people's
Absolutely.
lives. So it's important for us to keep that wheel turning. Back to your question about, sales and what you can do because you have to be self-motivated. Mm-hmm. We hear that all the time.
Yes.
In life. You've got to be self-motivated, right? And if you're not self-motivated, if you don't have a reason to get up in the morning to like I get up in the morning, I'm up at 5 o'clock.
Right.
I love getting up in the morning.
Yeah.
I love to get to work early. I like to be the first one there. I like to see the staff come in and good morning. But I get more accomplished in probably those 2-3 hours than I do the rest of the day.
Because
the rest of the day we're busy, we're in meetings.
Yeah.
And not that we don't want to help the staff, but they need direction. Are we going to do this? Are we going to do that? So routine is important. Routine is important and when the chips are down, you need to work harder. Because if you don't work harder, then you're not going to succeed. Right. Success is about, trying hard and then trying harder.
Yeah.
Right. And so for us, if you don't try hard, you don't try hard every day, do your best every day. And yeah, we may have a bad day. We all have bad days.
Yeah. But
we need to keep at it. Like I know when I was selling resale and there was months I didn't make any money. I had no money coming in.
Yeah.
Then I had a month where I made $30,000.
Right.
Like, this is great. And then I'm thinking, I don't have to work for a month, but I do.
Oh yeah.
You got to keep that wheel turning. You got to fill the pipeline.
Yeah.
And you hear that all the time, fill the pipeline. Well, we have to fill the pipeline. We do that now in this business.
Yeah.
We're filling the pipeline all the time because it's critical we get people into our sales lot. I know when they get here and they see what we have, they will be excited, but we need to get them here.
Right.
It's not the salespeople's job to get them here. It's our job. In your case, where you're in sales, it's your job to go out and to get them to come in and see you. And why would I want to buy from Zach?
Yeah.
Right. So you're always selling that.
Yeah.
And why buy from me? Why buy from me? Right.
And something I wanted to ask you is it's network. You had mentioned earlier sort of that coming to Ottawa and building a network and it was much different at that time, but you played hockey, you met different people. Were there any specific people early on that had a major impact on you from your network where you were like almost like a mentor, but just someone where you were like, yeah, this is somebody who I really want to model myself after?
There are many people. I work for many different people that I learned a lot from. Very smart people, smarter than me, but really successful people. Didn't always agree with some of their tactics in business, but on the other hand, they were smart, they were successful, and they pretty much did what I talked about earlier, which is they had a routine that they stuck to. They were able to change. Change is extremely important, and I learned that at a very young age because you have to change and evolve with change because as we get older, sometimes we get set in our ways and we don't want to, no, we did it this way. We used to do it that way. Sometimes my staff will come to me and say, well, don't tell me that, we did it this before and it didn't work. Well, you're right. We did it before, it didn't work, but it could work now.
Yeah.
So having an open mind and listening to, because we've got a lot of good people that work for us. And so listening to those people, and yeah, there was different people that influenced me. I was an Orthodox Jewish gentleman in Toronto that was extremely smart that I worked for. He probably was the smartest man I ever met. He was so good at...
What was his name again, sorry?
His name was Franz Gross.
Yes, okay.
And he was very, very smart man. And I learned a lot from him. If you saw him, you probably would say, you wouldn't look at him twice because he didn't dress very, it wasn't like he wore fancy suits or anything. He was very humble man, but very, very smart, And again, I worked for different people. I actually worked for Bill Mahaltra at Claridge Homes, and also extremely smart, probably the smartest man in Ottawa when it comes to buying land. Like Bill could walk on a piece of land and he could tell you how much money he's going to make on it. He could tell you how many houses he could yield on it. Again, very smart man, So I think one thing you have to learn through time is the intuition, how to read people, because there's a lot of people in this that'll talk a big talk, and you'll learn very quickly that, you've got to read those people really quick because they can waste a lot of your time, right? So
how do you do that?
Well,
that's something I struggle with. I'm someone who gives people a lot of time.
Right.
And oftentimes I realize later on, I'm like, well, that may have not been a good use of my time. What is it you're kind of looking for to identify whether that's someone you want to kind of continue to work with or do business with versus someone Not that there's anything, maybe issues with them, but it's just sort of not a good fit for you.
Well, I think you have to ask them some questions, and usually that's what I do. I usually ask a couple of questions that I already know the answer to.
Right.
And so when I ask the question and they're going down a road that they have no idea what they're talking about, I know I'm not going to waste my time.
Right.
At that point, I cut out quick. Just simply because I don't have time to listen to somebody that really doesn't know what they're talking about.
Right.
So I think, because my time's valuable,
Absolutely.
your time's valuable.
Yeah.
But I think when you learn about your time, it's important, because we want to spend time with our families, and I have children, and I have grandchildren, and I have people I work with. So I want to give my time to those people, because that's the people I want to spend my time with. So when someone comes to me and they're talking about something that I know they don't know what they're talking about, we try to end that conversation very quickly.
Right.
So I think but that's something you're going to learn through time. I think we want to give everyone the benefit, and I mean, I enjoy talking to people, and I love to talk to different people about different things, and I think that's how we learn, right?
Yeah.
But to talk about something that I already know about, and they're going to tell me something that I know they don't know what they're talking about, then that's where the conversation is.
Yeah, it's, as we get older, I feel like people are always like, oh, he's got no patience, or this person has no patience. But I think it's really just they've identified sort of like they don't have a lot of time. There's not a lot of spare time. And when somebody's kind of talking to you about something, like you said, that you already know, or you can tell that they're not 100% sure what they're talking about, it can be very difficult to sort of continue that conversation or
100%.
that relationship. So I completely agree with you on that. When you moved to Ottawa and you were sort of building your business here, what was the Ottawa market like then versus like what you see today in the city and what it's become?
Well, when I first got here, the market was not great. I got here back in late 80s. The market was slow. It was kind of similar to what's happening today.
Okay.
Maybe not quite as slow as right now, but it was very similar. So it was very difficult, being a resale agent, trying to go and get listings in a brand new community that I don't know, people I don't know. So if the first couple of years I did struggle. I struggled for sure, and I had the same sort of idea. Do I want to do this business anymore?
Right.
Do I want to? But I love sales and I love people.
Yeah.
So do I want to stay in this business, or do I want to leave? And I wanted to stay because I wanted to succeed, because failure wasn't in my vocabulary. I didn't want to fail.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I got to feed myself.
Yeah.
And I got to live, right? So I'm thinking, how am I going to do this? And so it just started to work for me. I started to get more listings, and again, I'm playing hockey helped. I met more people, and then the more people I met, the more people network that I built.
Yeah.
And then it's the trust. People trust you, so they recommend you to someone.
Right.
Because our business is very much referral
based.
referral based. So
Yeah.
It's friends who say, hey, listen, I got a listing, I'm going to give you a listing. And so next thing you know, you're growing your network. And then I started to become successful. But then I was also dealing with different developers and builders at the time.
Yes.
So I just started to get into new home sales. I thought, you know what, if I'm going to do something, maybe this is what I'm going to do. But as you know, being in sales, you give up your weekends.
Yeah.
Every weekend you're working.
Yeah.
So the toughest thing for salespeople, because you got friends who are going to barbecues.
Yeah.
Well, I can come later, but I've got to work till 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
But if you've got a client there, you might be there till 7, 8 o'clock, because you want to sell a house.
Absolutely.
Right? If you're a good agent, you want to sell a house. Somebody say, oh, I'm going to leave, I'll sell to you tomorrow, but you're going to lose them. Right? You want those agents that they're hungry, they want to sell, right? So I was hungry, I wanted to sell, and I love selling. So, I had a bit of a routine. At that point, I had got married, I had children. So my routine, I needed more of a fixed routine.
Yeah.
I still wanted to be in sales, and I love new home sales. But then I started working for different builders. And again, you learn from those people you work for, you learn from those companies that how I would do things if I was an owner of a company,
Absolutely.
right? And how I did things. And so I think in the late 90s, I started to work for Jean-Guy Rivard, who was the owner of Valecraft Homes, who was very smart man, still is. He's 89 years old. I'm not sure he wants me to tell his age, but he's a super smart man. And I learned a lot from Jean-Guy. He was very knowledgeable. Again, was a humble guy. He was a plumber that got into. He ended up buying a car dealership and then ended up getting new home sales. It was funny when he hired me, because when I came to Valcraft, he was doing 40 homes a year.
Okay.
He said, I need a sales manager. I said, you need a sales manager? Well, you're doing 40 homes a year. You don't need a sales manager. You don't need me. He goes, well, what do you mean? I said, well, if you want to hire me as a sales manager, you need to sell at least 100 homes a year.
Yeah. Okay.
So he kind of thought about it, and he looked, and back then, Clyde Turpin was Bank of Montreal, was big, and a lot of the big builders used Clive actually, and he ended up finding some land in Bridlewood in Canada, and we bought some land in there. And we were able now to do our 100 homes a year. So he hired me, and we did the volume. And from there, we grew.
Out of curiosity, do you remember what that land was purchased for back then?
You know what? I don't remember exactly, but I know. I'm going to say, so we go by front foot. Like right now, the average price for front foot in Ottawa is about $7,500.
Yes.
Back then, I think we paid $800 a front foot.
Unbelievable.
So that's the difference between now and then. It's just crazy. I mean, look at the cost now. And you think about it, you pay for a building permit here now, $70,000 for a single family home building permit, and then $7,500 a front foot. Multiply that by a 50-foot lot. You're now at what, almost $500,000, and we haven't even made a dollar yet.
Yeah.
We haven't put our shovel in the ground.
Yeah. Sorry, continue. I thought that was
so back to Jean-Guy. So he was really, you know what, he was a great mentor to learn from too. He was a smart man. He was quick, and if I learned one thing in business, you have to make decisions. The worst thing you can do in business is not make a decision.
Indecision.
So indecision is the worst thing. So he was very good at making decisions. That was one of the traits I learned from all the different people I worked for. Good business people make decisions.
Yes.
They're not always right, but they make the decision because probably 9 times out of 10, it's the right decision.
Right.
But sometimes it's not. But you have to make a decision and move forward. And he did a really good job of making decisions, which I think helped. Diane was very good at listening and then formulating and putting that together. And that's why I think we make a great team.
Right.
Because she was probably, as much as I was in sales and I'm a good listener, I think she was a better listener than I am. Because she would listen, and so together we made a great team. So between Diane, myself, and Jean-Guy, we helped grow the company.
Yeah.
We were probably doing about 170 homes a year, which is kind of the magic number for us. We're probably about 150. Again, I don't want to sell 500 homes a year. That's not what we're going to do. We can't do a good job selling 500 homes. We can't, and deliver the quality that we're delivering, that you see here, if we're going to do that kind of volume. And then I think you lose control because you're getting too big and things are going on. But back to Jean-Guy. So we grew the company, and I learned a lot from him. And we had an opportunity in 2019, so right before COVID.
Yeah.
We wanted to have sort of a transition plan, and Jean-Guy was trying to figure out how can we transition. And at that time, Diane and I were kind of going, okay, what are we going to do? Because we really wanted to, become ownership. We wanted to own Valcraft. So 2019, we started Valecraft Homes 2019, and so it started. So we started in Embrun. We bought a piece of land. We bought some more land, and we've got land right now in Orleans. We've got land now on the St. Lawrence and Iroquois. We have land here in Stittsville, where we are right now. So we started to grow. We started to grow and use the same formula that Jean-Guy had used, and the same formula that we had used all along. And it was a successful formula. It's really good. I mean, yes, the market right now is slow. I've seen this market before. It will come back, but we also have to push, right? We have to push to make sales, and which means you have to negotiate, which means back, a few years ago, we weren't negotiating.
Right.
This is the price of the house. This is the price you pay.
Yeah.
Now you'll see developers and builders were negotiating.
And so when you made the decision in 2019, yourself and Diane, what was that like when you were sort of negotiating for something like this? I mean, it's such a big company, and there were so many employees, and there's a lot of people that you're now going to be taking responsibility for in a lot of ways. They need you to continue to grow, and they need you to continue to sell. What were kind of the things that you and Diane spoke about when you were kind of going back and forth? I'm sure you wanted to make the decision, but just going back and forth with one another about making that big decision.
Well, it was nerve-wracking for sure. I mean, you're nervous. You're confident because we've been doing this all along. We've really been running the company because Mr. Rivard would go down to Florida and if we needed something, we would call him. But really, and Diane at that time became the general manager, and I actually reported to Diane. So she was, again, smart lady. Yeah. I have a lot of respect for her, and thus we're partners today. She's very well organized. She's really good. She did land development. I did land development. I was buying land. We were a good team then, and we're even a better team today.
Right.
But yeah, we were nervous because we leveraged everything. You're leveraging all your assets, right? You're taking a risk.
Absolutely.
This business, like any business, it's a risk reward. You spend time, you spend money. We knew what we were doing because we knew this was something we were comfortable with. It wasn't like we bought a business that we didn't know anything about, right? We started a business that we knew a lot about, but we also know that there's a lot of risks involved, right? And this business is very risky. And you'll see today, like there's not a lot of smaller builders anymore. There's a lot of big builders. and big builders are getting gobbled up by other builders, and land is really important. But sales is really important. And I think one of the things that we have is we're able to sell because we sell a good quality home. So I think people that want to buy a good quality home and pay just a little bit more will buy from Valcraft. And people that are really budget tight, sometimes will just have to buy, something that, maybe they'll come to Valcraft on their next step. So it's tough. It's a tough market for everybody right now. It's tough but I think if you have that quality, and we talk about our quality, we have I'll show you later, but we've got in our back of our brochure package, we talk about our mission statement, what's important to us. So we like to say we build the best quality homes in Ottawa, and now we're on the Seaway, so we're going to add in the Seaway. So we're very proud of what we built. We're very proud of our quality, and again, if you look at our reviews, we've never missed a closing date, again, prior to COVID, but we also have an excellent rating with Tarion. We have 0 chargeable conciliations. We're very proud of that. Excellent rating with the Better Business Bureau. So those are things that are really important. And some people say, well, why is that important? Well, because we want people to be happy. Because as much as we can market and do things, if you tell your friends and family, buy a Valecraft home, or better yet, you have them over to the house. Like you'll see with us sometimes when people walk in a house, and let's say we made a mistake. We put the wrong tile in the kitchen. We'll rip that tile off and put the right tile on. Because I don't want that to be the centerpiece when people come over and go, well, Valcraft gave me back my $1,000 for my tile, but that's not the right one. That's not the one we picked. I don't want that to be the focal point of the conversation. I want them to say, I'm really happy with my Valcraft home. I really love it. And you want them to be comfortable and to talk about it. Like they're our best salespeople.
Absolutely.
Is our home buyer.
It's still a referral business in a lot of ways, regardless 100%. If it's my types of sale or your type of sale, it's still referral.
And even for realtors that come to talk to us, we kind of take over when they come in and we say, oh, don't worry, we'll hand you a client. And the really good realtors will come and sit with their clients because they want to learn too about the new home experience, because a lot of times our salespeople will go through our paperwork and show them. But good realtors know quality too. And we've got a lot of realtors that will come in and say, yeah, your quality is really good. Like we know you guys are one of the best builders in Ottawa. So I'd love to hear that, because we worked hard for that reputation to get to that point. And we're like I said, you walk through this home, you'll say, wow, this is really nice. And that's what I want to hear. I want to hear that from homeowners. And if there's something that's not right, well, we'll fix it. We'll fix it and make it right. I mean, we're not going to please everybody, I'll tell you that. There's always people in this world we're not going to please. And, I'll tell you a story. There was a lady one time, I had been talking on the radio about we never missed a closing date. So she called the radio station and said, no, they did miss a closing date. And so the radio station called me and said, there's a lady claiming that you did miss a closing date. And I said, well, that's weird. Did she leave her name? He goes, yeah. So I called her. I said, you said we missed a closing date. And so can you tell me what location? I want to know.
Yeah.
So I went into her file and I found it. And I pulled her file out and I looked at it and I said, I'm going to call you back. So what she did was, when we were almost done the house, she wanted to have a finished basement. So I said, well, we can finish your basement, but it's going to close in 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Like you're going to be 6 weeks later. I can't or we can do it when you're living in it, but it's going to be a mess because you're going to have dust and so on. She said, no, you guys go ahead and finish the basement. So she signed an amendment that said, we're going to finish your basement.
Right.
It's going to cost you X number of dollars.
Yeah.
And this is your new closing date. So I said to her, we didn't miss your closing date. Yes, you did. You asked us for a finished basement. And she forgot about that.
Yeah.
So she, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And I said, yeah, well, that was huge because it was important for me, number one, to find out, did we miss a closing date? We're advertising something that's not true. But no, we did not miss a closing date. It was because you wanted to change it. So, I mean, those things happen in business and in life. And sometimes for me, I learn one thing, you deal with those people head on. Yeah. You call them, talk to them, find out what the problem is.
It's a great point. And something I want to touch on, though, is land acquisition.
Yes.
So that's become a big piece of what you are involved in today. And it's interesting because it's a competitive space to be in. There's not a ton of players per se, but the people that are in it, you're dealing with groups like whether it be Minto, Mattamy, Claridge, all of the big well-known builders, and yourself included. What is it like when you're looking at a piece of land and you know that it's coveted by multiple other groups?
Huge problem. So the best thing I can tell you is get in before they do. So if you don't get in before they do, you're not going to get it.
Yeah.
Because they have deep pockets. They can they can go out and overpay for land. There's a couple of developers in Ottawa that do that. They go buy land and they overpay. And in the good market, there's quite a few developers that went and overpaid for land. I'm not Bill Mahalter, so I can't go walk on a piece of land and tell you how much I'm going to get from the land. Bill can do that. I can't do that. But what I can do is I know when I see a piece of land where there's an opportunity. And that was one thing that we as a small builder were not going to do. We weren't going to go out and buy a lot of land. We were going to buy service lots. And there was a few developers in town that used to sell service lots.
Okay.
They don't do that anymore. They've stopped. They've started to build themselves, and so they've decided that they're not doing that. So there's nobody really that's doing that anymore. There's companies that will partner with you, like Tomlinson will. If you find a piece of property and there's a couple of builders and you want them to go in and do it, they'll do it. They'll go in and buy and be a partner with you. But a lot of smaller builders now are kind of you'll see them out going to the outskirts because the land has become so expensive in Ottawa.
Right.
Just can't afford it. We're lucky enough, we've got a nice piece in Orleans that's coming up. And that's going to be huge. That's probably about 400 units.
Wow.
But we're probably about 2 years away. And so you'll see a lot of them, like companies like Minto now, they're in Elmont, Carleton Place. A lot of builders have gone to Carleton Place. We've actually gone out to Merkley Oaks, which is in Iroquois, Ontario, which is on the St. Lawrence. Beautiful, beautiful spot. So Brockville's becoming another spot. So places like even Kingston. So we're looking at smaller venues because the land is so expensive here. And so you're going to find that they're going to creep out. But even the bigger builders are creeping out because it's the land and it's the time it takes to develop the land and to get it processed through the system here. It's still slow. It's archaic. Whereas, with Mr. Ford and the government had promised that we're going to push through, and he has. And I'll tell you a story at Iroquois, Ontario. We got draft plan approved in 6 months.
Wow.
Huge. And so because in Ottawa, that process will take 6-7 years.
Yeah,
and that doesn't make sense.
No.
And it costs developers. So we're paying carrying costs on the land, and we are right now. We're paying carrying costs on the land. So, it's tough. That's where it becomes tough for small builders because we don't have, deep pockets to go and buy 20 years of land supply.
Right.
I've got to look 10 years ahead. So right now we're buying we're set up probably for 10 years, and now in 5 years from now I got to look for another 10 years or maybe 15 years. So we got to keep because you got to keep your funnel full.
Yes.
If you don't have any land, and again, you got to have sales.
Yes.
So you need land, you need sales.
So Iroquois is an area that you're developing in, and you're really excited about that, and I can see why. But when you looked at a community, when you're looking at the outskirts, those communities on the outskirts, what is it that you're looking to identify about an area to say, okay, this is a Valcraft area?
Well, a couple of things. Number one, I got to look and see is there growth opportunity there. And one of the reasons that we looked at Ross Video, which is a huge company, Ross is expanding. Ross has a manufacturing facility there. They've actually bought a trucking company across the street. They're probably going to add 300 jobs in the next 3 to 5 years. So we looked at that and said, that's really good. And we talked to Ross Video. We said, what do you think? And they were really like, anything you need to help. We need development here because they're trying to draw people to come and live in that community. They've got a high school. They've got a public school. They've got a beach, they've got a golf course, they have a little airport, they've got the locks.
Wow.
It's a beautiful area. If you go down and take a look at it, it's just absolutely stunning, gorgeous. It's beautiful. But it's kind of like a best kept secret.
Right.
So we looked at it and said, how can we draw? Because right now the sales we've gotten so far are people from Toronto, from Cornwall, from Brockville, some from Ottawa. And we want to draw people from those areas because it's, number one, it's a good place to raise a family. Number two, if you want to retire, it's also a great place to retire because it's not the hustle bustle of the big city. Yet you're 45 minutes back to Ottawa. You're not even half an hour to Brockville if you want to go to the grocery store. You got probably another half an hour to Cornwall. So everything is close. Like if you want to go to a major store, they've got grocery stores there. And they're expanding. They're expanding that. So when we looked at the community, we said, why would we come here? What's the attraction? And the attraction was that we felt we could bring people from other locations to that location. Because it's a nice community. It's a safe community. It's a community where you go and go, well, I could live here. It's funny, I had a guy come out yesterday from Ottawa and I was there and he lives in Orleans. And he came out and he goes, yeah, I want to come out and see it. And so we gave him kind of a tour of the area. And he was really impressed. He goes, I didn't even know this place existed. So there's a lot of people that come from Ottawa. There's a beach there. They go to the beach and they travel there. And they just think it's like one of those best kept secrets.
Yeah.
Right? So those are things we look at. We look at communities that we think we can help grow. that we can add value to it. And the fact that there's going to be some growth there, yes, that was important to us, that Ross Video was going to expand. But we didn't just want to rely on Ross Video, because if something happens in Ross Video, they could sell, they could move. So are we still going to be able to sell? Yes, and we are selling there. So that was really an attraction for us. And now we're looking at Brockville. We're looking to buy in Brockville right now. We haven't looked at Cornwall yet, but we've had some people bring us some properties. So we're always looking to look for niches in the marketplace that things are missing.
Yeah.
Right? And I think we found that. We've got a real nice mix of product. Like we sell townhomes, we sell semi-bungalows, we sell bungalows, we sell 2 stories. So we've got a nice mix, and now we're going to build some apartment buildings down there. We've got some small apartment buildings
nice.
we're going to do. And it's funny because the first 2 buildings I've got, there's 16 units per building, so I'm 32 units, and I've got I think 54 people on a waiting list that want to rent.
Wow.
So that tells you that there's also a lack of rental in that area, right? So,
and you started at 21, 1984. It's 2025 now. So you've been in the business 40 plus years. You still get up first thing in the morning. You're still excited to go to work every day. What do you think drives you? I like to make people happy. I like to see that smile on their face. Like I was so excited the other day. You can ask Diane. I was going out to with my new sales guy, and I was going to make phone calls with him. I was pumped. I just love to do that. I love people. I love to go and that makes me happy, because also the fact that we can take somebody and bring them in to show them something new. Like we're also teaching them. Yes.
Who knows about Iroquois, Ontario? Who knows about Merkley Oaks? Nobody. But we're bringing people out there to a new community. And I think that part's exciting. So for me, when I get up in the morning, I think about all those things. I think about, okay, how can we make some more sales today?
Yeah.
What can we do? What can we do differently? Because our business is very much a business of plagiarism. Like, one builder has an idea and they advertise something. Within the 2-week period, somebody else is copying. Right. It's all the same. So there's no great new ideas you're going to come. But what we can be is consistent. We can be more consistent than our competitors. I think that's what makes us successful. Are we going to do the volume they're going to do? No, but I don't want to. I don't want to do that volume. I want people to talk about Valecraft Homes and be happy and go, I really want to deal with Valecraft Homes. We've done a lot for a lot of charities over the years. We don't go out and advertise and say we've done this, but we do a lot of work with Rural Ottawa, the Ottawa Hospital, the MOFOR, and the Heart Institute. So we've done a lot of things, and we give a lot back. So it's not just about taking, it's about giving back to the community. And those things are important because, sometimes they look at builders and developers going, oh, they make all this money. And yeah, there's a big risk involved with it, but we also like to think that we give back. We did our first golf tournament last year. We donated $30,000 to a women's shelter. And they really needed the money. It was the biggest donation they ever got.
Wow.
This year we're going to do Roger Nielsen Hospice House. So those are things that are important to give back. And you have to show people that, when you're buying a home from Valcraft, we're also taking some of that money and we're giving it back to the community. So things that you may use, like we give a lot to CHEO. So I know a lot of people use CHEO with their kids, and I use CHEO with my kids. So those are things that are important. So it's not about taking, it's about giving back. And so when I get up in the morning and I look about what my day is going to be like, I kind of almost forecast my week. What am I going to do for this week?
Right.
But then I try to get tasks done every day. There's certain things I try to get done. I may have 10 things on my list, but if I can get 3 or 4 of them done, I'm happy because I've accomplished something. So tomorrow when I get up, I now need to tackle those other 6 that I missed. And maybe I've added to that list again. But I think you have to, every day you've got to set some goals. You've got to say, okay, what am I going to do today? What am I going to focus? And sometimes your day gets changed because, whether you have a crisis that you have to deal with, you have a problem, you've got meetings that you go into. And that's why I talk about time is really important, because I think if I'm going to give somebody my time, I want to make sure that there's a benefit for me in the end where I'm learning something, I'm gaining something from this, or am I just wasting my time, right? Because I could be doing something else that's going to be more valuable. So that's important. And you'll learn that, I think, from owners that I worked for before. Like I know some of them, they don't give you the time of day if you're not getting to the point quick.
Right.
They're gone.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
They're gone.
And when you put that owner's hat on and you're sort of going through, the sales process is obviously very easy for you, but other aspects of the business, like once you become the owner, the onus is on you to sort of make sure that all functions of the business are operating well. And obviously your partner Diane helps you with other aspects that maybe your skill set isn't as refined in.
Thank God for Diane.
And I'm sure she feels the same way about you.
Yeah.
But what was it like when you sort of said, okay, now that I'm in this chair, Diane and I are in these chairs here, and we have all of these other aspects of the business to worry about? How did you sort of like set your time and your goals differently based on that?
Well, so Diane and I, we like to get together once a week. We have a meeting. We talk about operations of the company. We talk about, whatever sort of things with business wise, financial, staffing, all those things. And Diane was very strong with that. And I've learned a lot from Diane too, because Diane, as being the general manager for Valcraft, her responsibilities were she ran probably 12 companies.
Okay.
So she had a lot of things that she had to oversee. And so when I talk about learning, I've learned a lot from Diane because my strength was sales. My strength was going out and buying land, and even Diane was involved in buying the land. So we worked together great as a team. So I think when that came together, with us working together, I've learned a lot more about operations of the company. I've learned about, the financials parts of it, because those are things that I really wasn't even privy to at some point, because I didn't really care, because all I cared about was making sales.
Right.
Whereas I still care about making sales, but now I think about the operations of the company. I think about the important things that we've got to deal with on the day-to-day, the daily operations of the company. And part of that is, you've got staffing, you've got, there can be issues with your staff, there can be issues with, something that happened on site. So we've got to go to the site, we've got to go deal with, something, or, again, financial, you've got to forecast what your future is going to be like for, we're going to buy more land, where are we at financially? So those are things that I've had to be, part of, which I was not really good at before. And so I've learned from Diane about that, because she was very strong with that. And she's strong in sales. She'll tell me, she says, I'm a good salesperson too, but saying, yes, you are, but I'm still the sales guy. Right? So, so I like to think of myself as, I'm still that sales guy, and I still love selling. Like I said, I love to go in the sales office. Like for me, the highlight of my day when I can get out of the office and I go to the site, because I go to the site and I get there, and even my salespeople, I don't think they feel like, you can ask them, but I don't think they feel like, oh God, Frank's here, the boss is here. I think they feel, oh, he's here.
Yeah.
That's great. He's going to help me, because I don't go in there like a tyrant to say, how come this isn't happening? I want to listen to them to find out, how can we get more sales? And if there's somebody there in the sales office, I even love it better when I walk in, because then I go up and talk to them. Hey, how's it going? How are you doing? And so I want them to feel comfortable. Like, wow, sometimes people be awed and oh, the owner talked to me, and I'm thinking, well, yeah, but you're buying a house from me. This is great.
Yeah.
This is so great. So I think you just have to kind of look at the big picture when you're in this business. Like you do in any business, I guess. But the big picture is people. People are the, whether people work for you, the people that buy the home from you, the people that you work with, people in life.
Yeah. People that work for you. I know you have a team that's been with you a long time. A lot of the people in your office have been there 20 plus years. So when it comes to sort of that team dynamic, what do you think makes a team great? And what is it that you instill when you talk about sort of those visions, those mission statements? What is it that you think you need to instill in a team to sort of keep them there and keep them motivated?
Well, I think you have to treat people. I mean, it's still business, but you still have to, we treat them like family. So that's important to us. We, the values in business and in life, you have to, everyone's got personal values and they've got business values. And I think those have to work together. And I think when people feel that and they sense that, we treat our staff. We treat our staff like we would treat our family. On the other hand, just like family, sometimes you have situations where things don't go away, right? Yeah. But at the end, we treat them well. And so we do all kinds of different things for them. Like they can go to the hockey game. We have season tickets for the Senators. We go with season tickets for the Red Blacks. That's part of giving back to the community too. We support our local sports teams. Yeah. And there's a lot of people in our office that like sports. There's other people that don't like sports. So what we do is we send them to the keg. We give them a couple $100, they go to the keg for dinner. So we do that. We do little events for them. We just did an event at a bowling alley with all the staff. It's funny, and I probably haven't bowled in 30 years. Yeah. But we went and we bowled, and we did a lot of, anyway, it was just fun. It was getting everybody together, and we ordered food, and we had a few drinks, and it's just that camaraderie to come together as a group, to feel like you're wanted. Like you want it. People come. I think staff come to work and they enjoy working there because the environment's very positive. Yes. And I think that's one thing that's really important in a work environment, is to have it very positive. Now, again, sometimes things go away, and It's not always positive, but we try to keep the environment very positive so that when people come to work, they don't feel like, oh my God, I got to go to work today. Because we have a lot of really good staff that have been with us for a long time, as you said, and I think they enjoy working for us, and we enjoy having them work for us. But they're loyal, but we're loyal to them.
Good.
That's important.
Yeah, loyalty is a big part of it. I think they need to know that you have their back. And if you do, they'll most likely, the good ones will have yours as well. And I think that's a big piece of it. I think I want to ask one last question to you. The most competitive space that I see is new builds right now. It's a competitive industry. When the prices are going up, everything's great. When the prices are coming down, it's a difficult space to be in. And there was a quote that you had that I wanted to discuss with you as kind of my final question. But you'd said, I'd rather negotiate those things for people than take out the quality in the house. And that was about sort of the scaling down the size of houses or the different things that other builders have had to do to sort of stay competitive in their market.
Right.
But that was your quote. And it said after that, Valcraft had townhomes starting at just over 600,000, which a lot of builders now will offer a product that's 340,000, 390,000. They've sort of built a different product to sort of change with the market. But you've sort of steadfast said, like, this is, we want to build this quality home. First, I'd like you to kind of tell me, was that something that you guys sat down, Diane and yourself, and had a conversation about and said, we want to continue with this? And second part to that question is, once you made that decision, what was the response that you got from the market for something like that?
Well, it was a good conversation Diane had. It was a really important conversation because we said we could do what our competitors are doing and change our product and make it smaller and reduce the quality, because you don't have a choice. If you can't give the oversized baseboards, and you can't give the quartz kitchen countertops, the thickness and all those things. You can't provide that for a lesser price unless you give lesser quality. So we decided we would go the other way. We would rather negotiate upgrades in the price. So what we're doing now is great time to buy a new home right now, because we're giving, and we're not the only one, but the builders that are negotiating, but we're negotiating now, we're giving people sometimes $50,000 of upgrades included in the price.
Right.
And so we do that because I'd rather give that and have them have a quality home than to go to, because the problem is 5 years from now, when those other houses are falling apart, which they will be, and you're going to have to go in and renovate them, you won't have to in a Valcraft home. That quality is still going to be there. And so that's what we wanted to still. So our marketing aim now is to market people that want a good quality home, that want to be able to move in and not have to worry about anything, and have one call. We've got a great service department. Debbie is head of our service department. She's great, and she'll take care of them. She'll make sure that they're happy and that their home is basically what they paid for. So we had to decide, is that the route we want to go, or do we want to change our product and go the other route? And I think by doing that, because you can't have this different quality stuff in the marketplace. You've got, we build really nice homes over there, and they're more money, but now we have these lesser homes over here. I think you have to make a decision as a builder, is that what you want to do? And we decided, no, that's not what we want to do. We want to say, when someone bought a Valcraft home, they're happy with the quality, and I'd rather negotiate some upgrades and give them some than to take it out,
right,
and charge less. Because for me and for Diane, we both feel the same way. We thought, that's not the quality what we were used to. That's not kind of how we learned this business. We learned that quality is important, service is important, making people happy is important. So we would do that. I think we would get more phone calls. More people would be disappointed in what we're delivering, because people would say, well, you had a great name before. You guys built a really good quality home. Yeah, but you paid $300,000 less, and I had to cut the quality. And so you have to make a choice. You have to say, do I want to cut the quality, or do I want to keep the quality? Do I want to make more sales? Do I make less sales and build quality? So we're kind of hoping the other way, that the market will eventually turn. And it's like, we're still making sales. We're doing okay. We're not doing great. I'd be lying to you if I said we're doing great, but we're doing okay. And so I think that to get great again, we'll just have to wait for the market to change. There's a lot of factors, of course, what's happening with our counterparts in the US and the world economy and all those things, but there's different factors. The bond market's really low right now. If the bond market goes up, interest rates are the biggest killer for us right now. They're killing us. and killing all the builders.
Yes.
We can't sell homes when people can't get financing.
Yes.
So the Bank of Canada just announced they're going back to, they're leaving at 2.75. If they get to 2 and mortgage rates can get around 3%, and we don't need the crazy boom have it go so low as it did last time.
Absolutely
but I think
not.
If that happens, the market will come back.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think it speaks volumes to sort of the builder that you guys have become, the developer that you guys are. And I have a lot of respect for sort of staying true to that price point and staying true to those core values that you guys have. So, Frank, I just wanted to say thank you for joining me on an episode of Capital POV. I hope everyone enjoyed it. I think you've probably learned a lot. I know a lot of real estate agents who are looking to one day kind of make that jump into development are probably going to love this episode. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.